Alright, hey folks, welcome back to the channel here at Dustin Disc. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the first round of the tournament I just played at, which was a B tier out in Foley, Alabama. It was an NADGT event at the Graham Creek Nature Preserve, and this is going to be the first round, and it was at the preserve off of the white tees at the Grand Creek Nature Preserve, which I do have a practice round video on the channel already if you are a little bit more interested in like a breakdown of all the different holes and tee locations and things of that nature. But in this video, I'm just going to be focusing on my actual tournament play. And so without further ado, let's get started. I started on hole 13. This is about a 350-foot shot. Pretty wide open on an elevated basket, and so this is my throw off the tee, and it's pretty good. It was pretty much online and where I wanted to be. As you can see, I was maybe just a bit short and off to the left. Straddle putt, unfortunately, as I got a little bit in the woods there and just putted a little too low. And to be honest, I wasn't too upset with that. First putt of the tournament, elevated basket, straddle putt. Not my preferred putting style, and so it is what it is. Next hole, about 500 foot, par 4, and this just turned over way too much to the right. I think I just misjudged the wind a bit. I thought I was in a tailwind off the tee before I threw there, and so I threw a more understable disc, which understable disc on a backhand will travel to the right if you're newer to disc golf, and usually a tailwind will make your disc more stable, though, which will cause it to fly straighter and fade more towards the left. And when I started walking up the fairway after I threw, it was a headwind. So I think the wind must have shifted between when I was about to throw and when I actually threw. But it was okay. Missing to the right on this hole was fine. That's a mistake I was kind of okay with if it were to happen, because it's a par 4 and because at least I stayed out of the woods on the left-hand side. So now it's just about making sure I approach. My approach is a lot longer than I wanted it to be here. It's probably about like a 150 to 200 foot forehand I had to do because I only got maybe 300 to 325 off the tee. But able to throw the approach forehand pretty much exactly where I need it to be on this hole. And left myself maybe like a 10, 15 footer and able to sink that. So I'm now 1 under par. Par the first hole, birdie on the second hole. Good start. Next hole. This one is kind of a gap you have to hit over here on the left side. Baskets is going to be about right here. The distance on this hole is about 365 feet. So I knew I had to throw it really far to have a chance to even make it to the basket, much less hit the gap. That's kind of like an afterthought. But I'm hoping that at the very least I can, get somewhere near the gap and pitch and get a par at worst. I'm throwing the same disc I did on the previous hole, and with the way the wind was, I thought that it was a right to left wind, and so throwing understable disc would be fine because then it would just push my disc to the left, and I'd be able to still get all the distance I need and get where I need to go. But yeah, this thing just flipped over right hard again. And so I don't know if I'm just throwing it wrong there. I'll have to break down that throw in slow motion a little bit later, or what the case was there. If I like rolled my wrist or something and pulled it to the right because of that, or if my footwork was bad, or if the wind was just not what I thought it was. I don't know. There's a bunch of things that could have happened there. But that's the one throw that I wish I could have back, and probably this whole round. This is by far the worst tee shot I had all day. And as you'll see later, it really hurt. So you can see I'm way in the woods. I'm having to try to pitch out, which you can kind of see my disc there make it to the edge of the woods. Couldn't quite get all the way out. I was just way in there, and there wasn't really a way out. And so now this is my third throw, and I really got nothing. So I'm just going to try to throw a little forehand roller and just try to get to the mouth. And I was able to do just that. And ultimately, I was still about 50 or 60 feet away from the basket. Couldn't really putt at it. So I'm not taking a double bogey on that hole. So I was 1 under. Now I'm 1 over because of the double bogey on that hole. And now I'm, a little bit upset about that, obviously. I was thinking at worst I'd take a 3 on that hole, and I wound up taking a 5. So that is a really bad 2-stroke swing, as you would say. And now on the next hole, this one about 350 again. And this one I just let go a little early. And so instead of going wide right and hyzering in towards the basket, I wound up going dead straight at the basket and hyzering way off to the left. I got the distance I needed, but just way off to the left. And so I had a very long putt here, and I kind of just laid up to take a par. Knew I couldn't really make that putt. Wanted to make sure I got close and got out of there with a par. And so now we're on the next hole. This is another par 4. It is about a little over 500 feet here. Basket's kind of off to the left. General area over here that my cursor is kind of swinging around at. So I throw a pretty good shot here. I'm a little more left than I wanted to be. I kind of wanted to be more maybe like around here, still in the fairway. But as you'll see, I still have like a tunnel. The basket's actually right here. So I have a little bit of a tunnel I can kind of get through, as the only tree really on the right-hand side is this one over here. So a pretty wide lane. But I did go a little bit into this long grass. If I could have been like, say, right here, maybe just 5 to 10 feet more to the right, I would have like a very clear open look. But instead, I had to do kind of a weird standstill throw, and definitely made this approach way harder than it needed to be. But again, it's a par 4. I'm still feel like 150 feet away, so still definitely a chance to get the birdie here if I can nail this. And I did this basically perfectly. Landed it right under the basket. So easy birdie for me. I think that brings me back to even for the round or something like that. As you can see, just drop it in. Yeah, I think that basically these 2 birdies cancel out my double bogey, and I think I'm around even par at this point. So next hole, hole 18. This is a tough one. It's almost 400 feet. Basket is right here by this red car. T-pad points you this way, which is weird because it basically points you into this tree. So you can throw a forehand, or you could try to go through this gap right here with a backhand. And that's what I decided to do. Maybe give myself somewhat of a chance to get up to the basket and have like a long putt. And I just threw it too high. Hit a branch early. Now I have a much longer approach to the basket to try to save par. I just did not get the nose down on this disc and not push it far enough, and so I did not do well here at all. And to make matters worse, there's a giant hole right behind my lie that I was trying my best to avoid, but there really was no way to do so and still be legally behind my lie. And so this is tough. Did not do myself any favors off the tee or on the approach, and very long putt. Not surprised I missed that. Well, I'm taking a bogey on this, so now I'm 1 over par. And I'm going to hole number 1. About a 350-foot par 3. And again, just a little too high, caught those branches. Shortened up my tee shot. But still have a chance to approach. The basket's kind of tucked into a little hole over here on the right-hand side, so just kind of a chip-up forehand for me to get up to the basket and try to get a par. And I'm able to do just that. I hit a tree, but it was right next to the basket, and so I had a very easy tap-in, as you can see here. Pretty easy to go ahead and get the par here. I think I'm still sitting at around even par or so. Now we're on to hole 2. This is a par 4. This is about 400, a little over 400 feet. It's a straight tunnel shot, and then the basket's off to the right over here once you get at the end of the tunnel. And so basically I'm just trying to throw something dead straight for as long as I can, try to get up the fairway but stay out of the woods and make sure I give myself a chance to approach the basket. It's a par 4, so it gives me the chance to just not have to go for the whole thing here now. Just cut off a bit but stay straight and give myself a clean approach. And this is probably one of my best tee shots of the whole day. Really proud of this one. Just kept it dead straight for about 300 feet or so. Maybe a little less than 300 feet. As you can see here, it's a very easy chip up to the basket. I'm maybe only like 80 feet away from the basket at this point. And you can't see it, but that was literally right next to the basket. So now we have a shorty up next. This is a 180-foot par 3. Just kind of a tighter tunnel. You have to kind of get through this gap of trees up here guarding the basket. So a shorty, but slightly technical. And I just throw a forehand up there. Didn't know how good it was, and unfortunately it wasn't as good as I had hoped. I wound up having to have kind of a weird straddle putt. Maybe a 35-foot putt here, but just a lot of trees in my way. Really hard to get a good stance and feel comfortable. I kind of just took my time. Trying to give it a chance here. Still see if I can get the birdie out of this. was able to do it. Pretty happy with that. Finally get one, and now this is another par 4, dog leg right. Got to get through this tunnel ahead of me first and then get to the right, so I'm trying to throw a bit of a forehand and just threw it a little too inside. So I get caught on that one tree I needed to miss, which leaves me with really cut off angle. I mean, really you want to be like right here in the dead center of the fairway to have a clean approach to the basket, and I'm way off, kind of just pinched off from where I need to be. So I decide I'm going to try to throw a little bit of a backhand turnover. And almost got in a lot of trouble there. I did hit the tree, just the edge of it, and I wound up kicking off to the left and then still pushing forward, and puts me in this wood line here. And again, this is a par 4, so this is basically a long birdie putt I'm going for here, but also just trying to make sure I stay close to the basket in case I miss and, have a chance to at least get the par out of this situation. Which, that was a terrible bid, but I wasn't truly thinking I was going to make it anyway. I was really just trying to make sure I got out there, and now this is another kind of little tight tunnel shot I have to get through, and able to do that. This is a par 3, about 325 or so it's not far, but it's just nervy because you're just trying to get through a bunch of small gaps off the tee box. So while I could throw it all the way to the basket, I had the power to do so. I wanted to be accurate instead and just make sure I get the par. And, yeah, good approach shot there. Puts me right next to the basket. And so I can walk away with my par. That's good news. Next hole is another par 3, just under 300 feet. So right here, I'm just looking to try to get up there and give myself a chance at a birdie. Main thing is just wanting to swing it wide right, because the basket's like basically right here. And this tree catches a lot of stuff over here to the left of the basket. So I'm trying to stay wide right to avoid this, which I was able to do. But I just did not push it forward enough first. I needed to push it forward in about another 20 feet or so before it dove left. And so this is probably like a 50-foot putt. Well outside circle 1. Close. A little bit more height that might have gone in, actually. Might have got a birdie, but instead I had to settle for a par. I just didn't get far enough off the tee there to give myself a real chance. So now this one going to be another par 3, a little over 300 feet, I would say, probably like around 330 or so. But it's tricky because the basket's tucked in here, and basically the only real way to access it is to go up this lane, push straight for a while, and then break left. But the fairways are very skinny on this hole. And so, throw it perfect. That's exactly the lane I wanted to go up. Got the drift left I wanted. About the best I could have hoped for, really. Unfortunately, as you can see, I didn't get left enough. And I don't know if it's because it hit something or what happened, but I wound up getting stuck off here in this wood line. Again, very skinny fairway to try to get up to this point. And now I have a decision to make. I can either try to go for the birdie putt, or I could just lay up under the basket because there's these branches right here that I'm having to get around. So basically, just imagine I'm staring straight into a bunch of branches, and I can either throw under them, but then I wouldn't be able to get the height to get to the basket, so there would be no chance at a birdie. Or I could try to toss a disc to the left of the branches and curve it to the right a little bit, and maybe somehow get in the basket. And so I decided to try to go for it, which in hindsight, I feel was a very risky choice. And yeah, I just didn't curve right enough. It wound up drifting to the left. And now I am completely screwed. I mean, you can't really see it from this angle, but essentially my only way to get to the basket is to go wide right of this tree, which means I'd have to like throw something high and then have it spike left into the basket somehow, which there's such a short distance to cover. It's pretty hard to do that. I can basically try to do what I did in my initial putt, which is curve something from left to right, called like an Anheuser putt on the other side of these trees. That would have been just as hard. Or there's a gap between this tree and a tree on the other side of it that you can't really see from this angle. And the gap was maybe just 3 or 4 inches wider than the width of the disc itself. So there's not a whole lot of margin for error. So it's basically I either go for that, make it, get my par, or if I don't make it, then I get the bogey. So I decided to try to poke through the center Because no matter what, I'm taking a bogey if I don't make this putt. You can kind of see this tree now over here that I'm talking about. So I decide, I mean, worst that can happen is I miss and I get a bogey, try to get through, and I just don't. It was just so skinny to try to get through. So I went out taking a bogey on this hole, and that was disappointing because I feel like I had such a good tee shot, and at worst, I feel as though I should have gotten a par there, and I decided to try to go for birdie, and it wound up costing me. So this next hole is going to be another par 3, not too long, about 250, 260. But just, again, another weird angle where the tee pad's kind of pointing you to the left and you want to go right. Again, I hit the gap pretty much perfectly. The gap is essentially between this tree and this tree. And I get through it perfectly. Wound up going deep in the basket. And so I have like a little weird straddle putt because this tree and another tree are kind of blocking a direct route to the basket. So I have to kind of step out, as you can see, to a straddle position. Still should be able to get this birdie. It's not far at all. And just an inch higher that goes in for birdie. Instead, I wound up getting a par. So that's back-to-back holes there where I had a great tee shot, and I just blew it on the putting green. First time around, bad decision-making. That time around, just putting an inch too low. Now we're on another par 4. Not too long, only about 400 feet, but it's a tricky, very wooded tunnel. And so here off the tee, I'm not trying to get too far. I'm just trying to make sure I stay in the fairway. So I throw a little short forehand, and I'm good. Now, I still have to get, again, through a very tight tunnel, and the best choice I had was this backhand turnover, which is one of the weaker shots in my game, honestly. I'm not really good at the short backhand turnover shots, but I made this work. And so essentially have a chance at a birdie because, again, this was a par 4. And I take my time, make sure I get it. And that one was perfect. So big birdie there to get. Next one, a short 200-foot tight tunnel shot. So just trying to make sure I stay in the center of the fairway all the way. I'm able to do just that. Good putter shot here by me up the tunnel. Get up there. Another chance to get a good birdie putt. Again, though, I had to straddle. There's like a bunch of like skinny trees in the way. I never really gave myself a lot of easy putts. I'll say that. And that was just so unlucky, man. I actually don't know. I kind of want to look back at that. I mean, it's dead on. I mean, that is pretty center. It was a little off to the right, I will say that. And so it just chains out. That's one of those putts on these baskets that's just kind of like 50-50. Some of them are going to stick and stay, and some of them aren't. And unfortunately, that's one of those cases where I wasn't completely dead center, and so I left it to a little bit of chance, and unfortunately didn't get it. Close, but no cigar. Next one, another pretty short one. This is maybe about 215, 225. Basket's just to the left of the tree. Another putter shot. And this is exactly how I drew it up. I wanted to get around the tree. Keep it low enough to stay under it, and I did just that. And so I'm very close to the basket. And get another birdie. And now this is the last hole we play. 270 feet on a pyramid. And I just yanked this to the right. I mean, it's just plain as day. I yanked that one way right. It had no chance to get back to the left in time. And so at this point, running the putt is not a good idea with it being elevated. So I just lay up low. And I mean, there's layups and then there's just like perfected layups. And I mean, that was literally under the basket. So that is a par to end it. And essentially, this is where it wound up. Again, I started on hole 13. And again, I started okay with the par, got the birdie. This is the one I really wish I had back. This is the throw that went really deep into the woods. I had to like scramble through the forehand roller. This should have been a par at worst. And so getting a double bogey on that hole is really, really tough. Made a slight error on 18, hitting a tree early and getting a bogey. That probably should have been a par at worst as well. And then the bogey on 7 was just a bad decision making on the putting green. You know, this is the one where I tried to go for the left to right putt from the edge of the woods. I wanted to capitalize on a good tee shot. Wound up being a bad one. I wound up getting stuck behind trees for my par putt. Couldn't get through them and took a bogey instead. So even though I got 6 birdies on this round and therefore had potential to shoot a 6 down, I wound up only shooting 2 under par because of these nasty bogeys. Again, you're going to make some mistakes in the round, and so it's understandable that I would get a bogey here and there. That's just going to happen. You're going to miss a putt here and there. You're going to have a bad decision or just have a bad break. But I really feel like I probably should have shot 4 or 5 under based on how I played. This double bogey should have never happened. It wasn't a tricky hole. It's a wide open hole. The only way you can get in trouble is going deep into the woods, which is what I did because I just either picked the wrong disc or threw it bad or wind got unlucky. I'm not really sure what it was. Either way, I really feel like I should have at least got these 2 strokes back and shot maybe like 4 under or so. But instead, I shoot 2 under, even though I got 6 birdies, which is a little disappointing. Wound up being still, as you can see, number 1 in the division. And so, you know, I go into round 2 with the 1-stroke lead. And definitely felt, like I said, it could have been a better lead. Like I could have been, again, at 4 or 5 under. Maybe I have like a 3 or 4 stroke lead instead, a little more cushion going in the second round. But instead, you know, pressure's on because I'm only 1 stroke ahead to try to maintain the lead. But all in all, a good round. This is actually my first rated round. I just registered for the PDGA. This is actually my first like real rated tournament. I've only played 1 sanctioned tournament before this one, and I've played a couple of unsanctioned tournaments a long time ago, but this is like only my 3rd or 4th tournament ever, and my only, like I said, only like my 2nd sanctioned event by the PDGA. So this is actually my first rated round ever, and I was rated at 901. Again, if I would have been able to get to that 4 or 5 under, I could have maybe been rated more in like the 920 to 940 range on this round. I think each stroke at this was probably about, looks like 12 or 11 points. Based on the fact that the guy below me is at 890, I only beat him by a stroke, so it seems like a stroke was maybe like worth 11. So yeah, those 2 strokes could have put me like in the 920, 930 range, which would have been a great, because my goal is kind of to get a little over 900. I feel like I should be like a 900 rated player, just based on my history and such. But anyway, that is kind of a recap of the first round. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please follow and subscribe for more content. I'll have the second round up pretty soon. And yeah, thanks so much. Catch you next time.